When Duke Nukem 3D came out, it was something special. Here was a first-person shooter that would let you look up and down. That was new. Here was a first-person shooter that would let you interact with its environment. You could flip a light switch to turn the lights on and off. You could look at security cameras. You could flush a toilet. Revolutionary. This was practically unheard of at the time. But Duke Nukem 3D was also full of controversy. The premise behind Duke Nukem 3D was that aliens had invaded Earth to steal away all of our women. And that adventure would be full of colorful language and colorful locations, including strip clubs on the red light district. But for everyone that loved the game, there was another person that condemned it. Did it deserve all this hate? And is there a place for Duke Nukem in today's culture? We'll discuss these topics and more as we look back at the history of the entire Duke Nukem series on today's trip down memory card lane. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope these words find you well. Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of our Video Game Nostalgia podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. If you're just joining us for the first time, each week we choose one release from the current week in gaming history, and we talk about it. We use it to start important conversations about how games have affected our lives and the history we like, and just any old topic. We pick new ones every week. Not a big deal. This week we're going to be looking at Duke Nukem 3D and talk some history about Duke Nukem and all the fascinating lore around the Duke Nukem series. I'm kind of excited. In case you didn't know, I'm David Casson. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, who will walk into a room and proudly proclaim that he's here to chew bubblegum and kick ass right before he pulls out a lifetime supply of bubblegum. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, coming to you remotely from across the country, my brother, Rob Casson. Rob, so how is all that ass kicking working out?
Well, I still got a lot of bubble gum.
A lot of bubblegum.
Oh yeah.
So Duke Nukem,
Duke Nukem
You ever
3D.
You ever play a Duke Nukem game before?
I had the chance to actually play a remaster of this one.
Yeah, the version that we have you try was a remaster, but had you ever played it before?
No, prior to this, I had never played any of the Duke Nukem series. I'd heard of them, but I just never got around to playing them.
Well, what had you heard?
It's another shoot 'em up like the Doom series was, with a guy who was just a total badass, chewing gum, kicking ass, and he was all out of gum.
That is very true. Anything else you know about the Duke Nukem series?
Beyond what I learned from this game about defending the Earth from aliens, no, I don't know anything.
They're mutant pigs.
Well, mutant space pigs, come on.
Isn't that the best? Mutant space pigs.
They're awesome. And I think they were wearing police uniforms.
Well, that's because when the aliens came to Earth, they turned the LAPD into mutant space pigs.
Well, isn't that symbolism at its finest? This game clearly has some words to say about
this game
authority.
has words, just words, period. This game has nothing but words to say, and that's what it was known for. Definitely just known for. The Duke Nukem series goes as far back as 1991. Of course, we're going to be looking today at Duke Nukem 3D, which came out in January of 96, kind of, sorta. Duke Nukem 3D was one of the early games on the shareware model, and the shareware version, kind of the demo, if you will, was released in January of 96, but it wasn't until April of 96 that the full game was actually released. So I worked this one a little bit around, but technically I don't know, I kind of have January down as the release date. It's not a big deal. We're going to look at the whole Duke Nukem franchise and everything around it. You know, the first Duke Nukem was released back in 91, and Duke Nukem 1 and 2 were not 3D games. They were 2D side-scrolling platforming games. They were released in DOS. They were pretty basic, man. I don't really know what else to say about it. They were short. They had 3 episodes, 10 levels apiece. Yeah, I mean, what's so fascinating about Nukem to
Nuke Nukem.
about Duke Nukem. What's so fascinating to me about Duke Nukem isn't as much the game, to be totally honest with you. I mean, we'll talk about the game, and it's Duke Nukem. We're gonna have things to say, but the pedigree of people and in some way technology that is around the Duke Nukem series is what fascinates me the most about this series. Take the original Duke Nukem, okay? Duke Nukem was developed by Apogee Software. Do you know Apogee?
That
Apogee?
does not sound familiar to me, no.
Yes. Well, these days they're known as 3D Realms. Do you know what games 3D Realms makes these days?
It doesn't sound familiar to me either.
Yeah, so most recently, I think their biggest title that they made was the Prey. You know Prey?
No, can't say that I do.
You don't know the Prey game at all?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Well, it got outsourced to another studio anyways, but how about Rise of the Triad?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Shadow Warrior?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Well, you don't know their pedigree whatsoever. So,
Nope.
that,
Sure do not.
that's okay. What's most fascinating about them when they were back in the 80s and 90s before they were 3D Realms was the fact that in a lot of ways they kind of pioneered shareware distribution. I don't believe they were the first ones to do it, but their distribution model, the I don't know if it's Apogee or Apogee. I think it's Apogee. I don't know. In any case, that distribution model was dubbed the Apogee model at first, the shareware model, and basically once upon a time we would get games and stuff through BBSs or bulletin board systems. Do you know what a bulletin board system is?
That doesn't sound familiar to me.
So bulletin board system was basically an online computer server that would allow you to connect to the system using a terminal software. So basically, it was an online system that looked like DOS. Does that make more sense?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, so early BBSs could be used for chat rooms. They were online forums. There were social networks. They're very much a precursor to the modern form of the World Wide Web before it was all graphical and had stuff like this. And early on, games were distributed on bulletin board systems. The board users would make voluntary donations to people who would to release games on it, which was kind of known as the shareware distribution. And so the guy who is at the helm of this company, Scott Miller, he wrote a game called Kingdom of Kraz, and it had more than 60 levels, which was more than he wanted to release to the public at no cost. And so what he did is he made it so only a fraction of the game would be available to play for free via BBS, which upon completing those levels, it would display his mailing address on the screen and it would ask the player to contact him to buy the rest of the game. So he broke his game into three parts, which he would call episodes, which has kind of become a thing for this type of game. And he shared the first one over BBS and he made the other two for sale. Kingdom of Kraz, which was the first Apogee Software Productions game, was pretty successful. He ended up making about $100,000 off of it, which back in '87 was a lot of money. Roughly, it was said that he was getting checks in the mail that were anywhere. He would make between $100 and $500 every single day before at its apogee. I don't know. Isn't the apogee the height of a like when a rocket reaches the highest point? Isn't that called the apogee at the top? Or am I totally off for the origin of this name? Do you know?
I thought it was the wow. I just had the word.
Okay,
Like
well,
it's the peak of the arc, but it's like I thought it was the apex.
oh yeah, you're probably right, but I'm not completely wrong. So Merriam-Webster defines apogee as the point in the orbit of an object orbiting the Earth that is at the greatest distance from the center of the Earth. I guess it can be. Also, it can be used in terms of in the figurative sense, where it's the high point of a career or an endeavor. Like, you're the best. This was the apogee of your profession, or what have you. Apogee. So yeah, so shareware. they made shareware and they released the Duke Nukem games in this model. You had Duke Nukem 1 in 1991, and in Duke Nukem 1, basically Duke Nukem takes on the role of stopping a madman called Dr. Proton, who decides to take over the world with tech bots, and he chases Dr. Proton to a secret moon base and then into the future, and Duke has to pursue him through time to put an end to his mad schemes. Fun fact, the graphics in the original Duke Nukem borrowed very heavily from other games, one of which we've done, the MS-DOS version of Mega Man. It borrowed art from that, which is kind of fascinating. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then 2 years later, in '93, we got Duke Nukem 2. And Duke Nukem 2, basically, there's a plan. Aliens decide they want to enslave Earth, and they kidnap Duke Nukem to use his brain to plot the attack for their forces. And Duke breaks free and basically saves the world again. Not a whole lot to it, which leads us 3 years later to 1996, where we get Duke Nukem 3D. And it's really funny because the premise to Duke Nukem 3D is that it starts at the very end of Duke Nukem 2, and basically in it, Duke is coming to Earth and he finds that aliens he's returned to Earth after Duke Nukem 2, and he's unexpectedly shot down. He finds that aliens have invaded Earth, and they've transformed the Los Angeles Police Department into mutant pig cops to do their bidding, and they're stealing all of the women. And of course, Big Duke Nukem says, "Nope, not my women." Right?
That he does.
That he does. That he definitely, definitely does. And so that leads us to 1996, Duke Nukem 3D. You know, I don't remember 1996. I mean, if this was end of January, you would have been just turning 1. I don't remember your first birthday. I'm sorry.
I don't either.
Am I supposed to not admit stuff like that? Is that is
I
that
don't know.
is that bad? Fun stuff though, because we talked about it last time. You know what in early January, this is late. I know this comes out in late January, but I still want to talk about early January. You know what's on the Billboard Top 100 in early January?
No, I do not.
A Beatles song. What year is it? Oh my god. I don't know. In late January, it was a Joan Osborne song called "One of Us" that was on the top 100. I don't remember. I don't remember it at all. And then, I mean, nothing else was really happening then, other than Philadelphia. There was a blizzard in Philadelphia on our sister's birthday, in which Philadelphia got 30 inches of snow. 30. Can you imagine 30 inches of snow? I mean, I don't know if we've ever come close to that in our. I don't know. I left a while ago, so maybe you have now. But
I don't believe so.
and then the movies. In the movies, you've got 12 Monkeys, Biodome, Pauly Shore, flick. Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. These are all stupid ass movies. And Dunstan checks in. Oh my god. There is nothing good. Oh, here, look, From Dusk Till Dawn. That's a good song. A good song. That's a good movie. Yeah, like I said, there's just not a lot going on in early 1996 other than Duke Nukem. So here we are, Duke Nukem 3D. Duke Nukem 3D. Well, I said I was really fascinated with the pedigree, and so one of the things I kind of missed as we went along was the fact that I kind of talked about pedigree and people who have their hands in it. So back in the original Duke Nukem, it said that John Carmack helped program some of the low-level parts of the game in assembly language. We've talked about John Carmack before. Rob, do you remember where John Carmack is from?
No, I cannot say I do.
John Carmack founded id Software. Where's id from?
I forget, man.
Man, we gotta start drilling this into Doom. id Software is Doom, and John Carmack would be the lead programmer on Commander Keen, Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake, and other games for it. Now he works full time for Oculus, so that's what he does nowadays. But yeah, he worked on the Duke Nukem series. Here in Duke Nukem 3D, there was level designer called Randall Pitchford II. Do you know one Randall Pitchford II?
Randall Pitchford the second, huh?
How about Randy Pitchford?
Sounds like Gearbox Software to me.
Sounds like the founder of Gearbox Software. Gearbox makes one of our favorite gaming series, which is
That would have to be Gears of War, hence Gearbox.
Gears of War. Good lord, try again.
I'm just kidding.
My god.
They make Borderlands.
Gears of War. Oh man, the horror.
Wouldn't that have worked out though?
Yeah, it really would have worked out. It would have absolutely worked out. So it's kind of fun because people have worked on the series and on the Duke Nukem, and you've got Carmack had his hands in it one type, and you have Randy Pitchford, and that's relevant. It'll soon be relevant with Randy Pitchford because Gearbox actually has Duke Nukem rights nowadays. So, Rob, Duke Nukem 3D, you had a chance to play Duke Nukem 3D. Tell me about it.
Well, it was a game where you run, you shoot, and you look around trying to figure out where in the hell to go next.
Yeah, pretty much. This came out 96. That would have been right in there with the Doom stuff, and Doom was very linear. Doom didn't have any vertical movement, and this did. I think this was slightly more complex than Doom in a lot of ways. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't really remember the original Doom that well, so I can't speak to that end, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, I mean, this one was kind of fun that you had nonlinear levels. You had air ducts, there were back doors, there were sewers, with hidden locations. You could interact with the environment, which was unique to this. So you could turn light switches on and off. You could use water fountains. You could piss in toilets. You
I
could
did find that one out.
you can tip strippers.
You can also look at the mirror and see how sexy you are.
You can look in the mirror, see how sexy you are. There's a peep show early on that you can open and close the videos in the peep show. Yeah, so I mean, that was. I mean, it's stupid to think about it now, but back then that was kind of a newer thing where you can interact with these things. You know, eh, it's something we take for granted, but when video games started to be more realistic, like I could flip a light switch on and off, that was really fucking something, man. That was different. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, nowadays we just kind of do it and move on, but at the time I probably would have sat there and turned lights on and off. I don't know any other way to put it. So, I mean, that was pretty cool.
Seems that way, Dave.
I got what would I have been? 12 when this came out. I mean, I
11.
11, or yeah, I would have been turning 12 the following month. I don't know if I would have played this right then and there. It might have been a year or two later, but I mean, when you're a teenager and you have strippers dancing everywhere, this was a lot of fun. So I guess do you remember in Doom when we talked about modding how they had WADs, which were levels for the games?
Yes.
They did that with Duke Nukem 2, and I remember all these unauthorized level packs that you would download off of like BBSs and weird things, and like ones that would advertise nude. Because when you're 12, 13, or however old I was at the time, you got your content wherever you could. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I definitely remember all those levels that were like Duke Nukem Nude Pack, and it's like, yes, please. But that gets us into Duke Nukem's. Duke Nukem is known for being provocative. Duke Nukem is an asshole, I guess. Duke Nukem is I don't know. What would you describe Duke Nukem as?
Uh, uh, he's got that macho persona.
He does have that
Thinks
macho
he's
persona.
top of the world. Thinks he's the hot shit and everyone wants him.
Yeah,
But maybe in his world they do. They all want to kill him, that's for damn sure.
that's very true. Everyone does want to kill Duke Nukem, which is kind of funny. I don't know why they want to kill him, really. I mean, why? I don't know why you'd want to kill
Who
him.
knows?
It's just kind of weird. I guess because he was the one saving the world. Well, I mean, look, we talked about Duke Nukem gets all his quotes from action movies, all of them. And I mean absolutely fucking all of them. Like everything, every possible thing you could possibly think of is from a movie. He actually has a what's the word I'm looking for? Like an online profile for Duke Nukem, and he lists his favorite quote as being "It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum," which is of course from a movie, you know.
What movie?
Oh shit, I can't remember the movie. Can you remember the movie?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I can't remember the movie right now. It's not a big movie, I don't think. Are you looking it up?
Sure am. They Live, 1988.
Yeah. Yep.
That's okay.
What?
It just, I don't know. I thought it would be something cooler.
Nope. And it's really one of the only quotes from that one. So in '96 we had Duke Nukem 3D, and I kind of talked about the history of it. We didn't get another Duke Nukem game till 2011. 11. It was what, 14 years that is? And it's kind of funny. The next game in the series, the latest and last game in the series, is Duke Nukem Forever, and there's a joke that vaporware games that get announced and then they kind of languish in development hell. And for the longest time, Duke Nukem Forever was the golden standard. It was the golden standard for vaporware because it languished for 14 hours. Um,
Hours.
Years, thank you. Languished for 14 years in it. You know, they started it back in 1997, and that's when they first started promoting it. It God, it's such a weird history, man. It's such a weird ass history. It was announced in 97, and it was going to be built on id Software's new Quake 2 engine. So they licensed it because they didn't want to have to write a new game engine from scratch. You know, they were still doing good with the sales from Duke Nukem 3D, and so the first screenshots that you ever see of Duke Nukem 3D were actually done on the Quake 2, the Quake engine. The yeah, it done the Quake engine. And in '98, there was footage of Duke Nukem 3D at the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3, and that was made on the Quake 2 engine. After Quake 2 though, after the Quake 2 engine back in like I don't know 98, 99, they determined that they wanted to switch to the Unreal Engine. So they made the switch. This is what 14 years, 14 years, 14 months. They switched to another engine. So here we are again switching to another engine, and they would have to convert the entire game over. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense. A lot of work, a lot of rework.
A lot of rework. Absolutely a lot of rework. This whole time, nothing is going the way they want it, right? They're changing engines. People are complaining about its the its look. People are complaining about how slow its progress is going. I mean, everything was not going well. And then in 2003, 3D Realms was they were their publisher got absorbed into Take-Two Interactive. Okay, at this time, there's only about 18 people at 3D Realms working on the game, and they had this mentality that it would ship when it's done. Take-Two said it was going to come out, but 3D Realms was fighting back, and about this time, they announced that they had switched to the Doom 3 engine. So we're on what, the third engine of the whatchamacallit? And we're already what, 2003 would have been how many years into it? We said 97, so we're how many years in, Rob? What is that?
One.
Wow. I know.
Wait.
97, 2003, 6
Oh,
years.
oh. I was still thinking of like when this released. Sorry. Yeah, that would be 6 years.
3D Realms was still working on the game. This is 2007 roughly. They worked on it 2007, 2009. And at this point, it was determined that the company had spent more than $20 million of their own money. And so they asked their publisher, Take-Two, for another $6 million to complete the game. Take-Two only offered them 2.5. They couldn't do it on 2.5 million. So at that point, they took the game and they suspended all development of it, absolutely all development of it. So in 2009, without any money left, 3D Realms laid off all the staff, and it languished there. You know, it turned into a legal fight because Take-Two, as the publisher, they sued 3D Realms over their failure to complete the game, you know, citing that they paid $12 million for the rights back in 2000, and 3D Realms said, "Hey, we never got that money. That was between you and Infogrames, who was the publisher before that." And yeah, they basically fought over it in court. They fought over everything in court. It stayed in there for what, 2 years, 3 years. In 2010, they settled it. They settled it, and the lawsuit was dismissed. I don't know what they settled, but basically what would happen in 2010, Randy Pitchford, who had worked on Duke Nukem 3D, he felt that Duke couldn't die and decided that he was going to, you know, help Duke in need. And so he contacted 2K Games president, who was publishing for him, and convinced them that his company Gearbox, along with some other people, could help finish the development of the game. So basically, Gearbox, Randy Pitchford, who went over and worked on Duke Nukem 3D, used the clout, you know, in the company. He founded Gearbox, and he got Duke Nukem revived. And so, along with Tripyarch, what would they do? Didn't they do a Call of Duty? Um, trip trip Triptych, wasn't it Triptych?
No, it was Treyarch that you're thinking of.
Triptych, Triptych.
Treyarch was the one that did some of the like Black Ops Cold War, and like they're the ones behind it right now, I think. They were acquired by Activision in 2001, and they're the ones. Activision is the one who releases Call of Duties.
Gotcha. Well, look, I don't know what I'm talking about in any way whatsoever. So in any case, they basically saved Duke Nukem. They released Duke Nukem Forever in 2011, May. That was actually went gold in May. It was released in June after 14 years, and it flopped. It flopped so fucking hard, and as a result, I doubt that we'll ever see a Duke Nukem game ever again, because to languish for 14 years and not get any payoff for it whatsoever, I I'm not surprised that nobody wants to play another Duke Nukem game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be pretty disappointing if you waited all that time and got an absolute crapshoot.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Well, what else? What was your take on the game? You said it was like Doom. Any other takeaways from it?
I found the game enjoyable if it was, you just want to run and gun, just like with Doom. You kind of got to be in that mood to just run in, gun in, not know what's around the corner, just running, guns blazing, and you could also go in legs blazing and you kick them, mighty kick.
You know what else is good for the running and gunning? Have you ever played any of the Sudden Serious Sam series?
Sudden Series Sam series.
No, Serious Sam.
Can't say that I have.
Those are good too. Those are really run and gun. You know, there's a lot of good first person shooters from that early era that just don't. I don't know. They don't have a lot of representation. Although Serious Sam has, I think, 4 games in the series, one of which is newer. Oh man, it was really funny too. When the fourth one came out, they coded there's an enemy in the fourth one that if you pirated the game, so the pirated version, the enemy would stalk you and instant kill you. And when this game came out, you had a lot of people that were complaining about this enemy because they couldn't actually get past it, which is actually them admitting that they were playing a pirated copy of the game, which is fucking hilarious.
That's actually awesome. How did they just
I,
had some kind of code that knew it was pirated somehow?
Yeah, that's basically it. I think it was the fourth one. Maybe it was the third. Maybe it was the third one. It was the third one, Serious Sam 3. In Serious Sam 3, you would just play it fine for a while, and then a gigantic, immortal, super fast scorpion would chase you around the map and murder you to death, which is really funny.
That is quite hilarious, actually.
I'm gonna share this with you real quick. You can take a look at it. Yeah, and it didn't matter. It was in basically that's exactly what it was. If it was a pirated version, Damn.
So you could headshot this thing and it would just keep on coming. Like it just didn't matter.
Oh, you couldn't kill it in any way, shape, or form. It was it's known it's basically the most ingenious form of DRM almost ever created. You- oh man. Uh, yeah, Serious Sam is a fun series. It's another one of those that you just kind of run and gun, and it's giant waves of really large enemies that that you fight.
So was it truly immortal?
Yeah, you couldn't kill that scorpion at all. If you, that the are you watching the video I sent you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't kill it. It just keeps chasing you down until you die.
Wow. That would be quite hilarious to witness.
Well, can you imagine like people are going, "What the fuck? I can't play this game. Like this is the worst game ever." There's this enemy that I just can't kill. How, why? Like, what am I doing wrong? And the developer's like, yeah, about that. You pirated our game. I remember it started the piracy conversation like all over again when it happened, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Super fast and immortal. All right, but we're not talking about Serious Sam. We should sometime though. That'd be fun. We're still talking about Duke Nukem. So other than that, anything else stand out about it?
I did find it interesting that you could find little secrets throughout the maps and that you actually had to look around, that it was kind of a puzzle game, a platformer at some points. There are a lot of aspects of modern games that were portrayed in this. It's kind of cool to see such an early game possessing all of that. And, although you are dealing with 1996 graphics, even with the 3D remaster, it actually looks pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Doom, and it's that half 3D. Like it's a 3D setting, but your enemies definitely aren't in 3D.
Flat,
They're
yep.
they're flat. But if you've never played a Duke Nukem or you don't know anything about Duke Nukem is basically just imagine the baddest ass action hero with the biggest head about it, and you basically have Duke Nukem, and that's really all. I mean, he's full of hero quotes. He'll uh he'll quote Ash from Army of Darkness and say, "Come get some," or he'll say, "Blow it out your ass," which is also a They Live quote. He sings "Born to Be Wild" from Steppenwolf. He quotes Yoda. He quotes Yoda. Do or not do. There is no try. He quotes Predator. Damn, you're ugly.
Hmm.
He quotes Clint Eastwood. Actually, fun if you do some research on John St. John, who's the voice of Duke Nukem, he will tell you that his voice of Duke Nukem was based upon Clint Eastwood. He took Clint Eastwood, did it with a lower pitch. So it's kind of funny when you think about it, because at one point he'll go ahead, make my day, or do you feel lucky, punk? He definitely uses those quotes. Man, there's just so much. See you in hell. So help me, Duke. He'll sing "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees. I don't know. He quotes Die Hard. Yippee ki yay, motherfucker. Your face, your ass. What's the difference? God, there's just so much. There's just so stupid. Nobody steals our chicks and lives. Duke Nukem is just full of all sorts of quotes, and that was pretty much it. Duke is completely motivated by women. I mean, that's literally all his thing is the aliens want to take all of our women, and so Duke wants to defeat the aliens because apparently he can't live without women. Which I guess that can be said for us, all of us.
That it can.
But yeah, Duke Nukem. In this Duke Nukem, it's not that complicated. Duke annihilates the enemy overlords, and he celebrates by desecrating their corpses. It's really not that big of a deal. So
Yeah, no big deal.
no big deal. But yeah, I mean that's Duke Nukem in a nutshell. A little bit of his history, a little bit of what he gives to Apogee gave shareware, and Duke Nukem was part of that storied history, and then a little bit of a game that languished in development hell for 14 years, switched engines countless times, ran out of money countless times, was in court over copyright, not copyright, but who owned the game. Now Gearbox owns Duke Nukem. and the last Duke Nukem was such a failure that we'll probably never see Duke Nukem ever again.
Womp womp womp.
You ever play a game called Bulletstorm?
I have not, no.
So Bulletstorm, there actually is Duke Nukem in Bulletstorm. There's DLC for it called Duke Nukem's Bulletstorm Adventure, but I think Duke Nukem is the spiritual successor to, or I'm sorry, Bulletstorm is the spiritual successor to Duke Nukem. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that, because I think that it just is. Bulletstorm was a great game. It's got this rude and crude attitude like Duke Nukem. Really great shooting, really great mechanic. It had this like lasso that you could use to like throw enemies in the air and then shoot them or kick them, and you'd like kick them in the nutsack and make the same type of comments that Duke Nukem wanted to make. That's pretty much it. So if you never played Bulletstorm, play Bulletstorm. Duke Nukem also had multiplayer. Not much to the multiplayer though. It had Duke match instead of death match. It had a co-op mode where you could play the single player levels. You could play against bots. Also had a capture the flag game mode, which was introduced in a later edition. But it was one of the early games that did have in-game messaging. You could send a message to specific players, and then as they released later versions, they had voice chatting. But I don't know, some fun technology in there.
Hell yeah, it is.
And it was an early stop for Randy Pitchford, and thanks to Randy Pitchford, we got Gearbox, and thanks to Gearbox, we got Borderlands, right?
Hooah.
Hooah, 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 hooah. And I think that's important. We love Borderlands, right?
That we do.
Well, I mean, I know that was short and sweet, but I don't think there's much to the Duke Nukem games. That's the other reason why they're fun. They're just mindless and brainless shooting games, and that's it. You run around, you shoot, you enjoy some crude humor and some scantily clad women, and you move on.
Absolutely. That's about what I got from it.
Yep. And so yeah. Anything else you want to add to Duke Nukem? Well, you know what? We found reviews. You found some reviews. I tasked you with reviews this week, huh?
That you did.
What do some people have to say about Duke Nukem? How did other people feel about it? Since we were kind of like, meh, run and shoot. What some other people got?
A couple of reviews that I found from trueachievements.com. User Ryan Legend 95 says Duke Nukem was the king of 1996 and he still is the king by even today's standards. Back in 1996, this was the real deal. The graphics were amazing, and the fact that you can now look up and down, whereas Doom only let you look left and right, made a breakthrough. Whereas Doom was the most successful first person shooter back in its day, Duke Nukem came along and stole its spotlight by creating the most idolized video game character of all time. The reason why Duke is so idolized is because of his famous one liners and his massive inventory full of guns.
All right. Well, we already talked about being able to see up and down, and I agree that along with the interactivity of the environment were pretty amazing at the time. Now, with that being said, I don't think Duke is a notable video game character much at all these days. Do you?
I think that his one liners still would classify him as definitely an out there character, but there's just so many more notable characters that have more qualities to them than just witty one liners.
Well, we're also going on 10 years since we've last had a. Is it 10 years since we last had Duke Nukem game? Didn't I say 2011
Yep.
was forever? So we're going on 10 years. So 10 years without a game in a franchise is kind of hard for a video game character to have any notoriety. There are going to basically be there will be a whole generation of video gamers who have never probably experienced a Duke Nukem game, and you can only do that for so long before you just fall out of relevance. See what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. There's no denying that.
All right, what else did you find?
User Josh Nichols from Bago Games says, I really enjoyed replaying Duke Nukem 3D for this review, and know that many of you will either enjoy playing it or simply experiencing it for the first time. It really is a landmark title that is a ton of fun to play. Whenever people try to talk Doom up too much, I always make sure to bring Duke Nukem 3D up because I honestly consider it to be a superior game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like when I think about the games that I played back then, I mean, Doom and Duke Nukem 3D, along with Quake and Descent a little bit later on, those are the early first person shooters that really stick out in my mind. I agree. I think that Duke has a really important place in first person shooter history, but you know, history. It, Doom has stayed relevant and Duke Nukem has not.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any argument here. Duke Nukem was relevant in its time, but not so much nowadays. It's like I said, we're going on 10 years without a Duke Nukem game. So I don't know. I guess it's going to be longer if we ever do get another Duke Nukem game. I mean, the game won't have languished in development hell for 14 years, but if we get another Duke Nukem game, we'll probably get it more than 14 years, and then the gap between the last two won't really matter. It's just going to be funny to think about.
That would be very interesting to see if the title ever got revived after 2011.
And that though, let's talk about that for a moment. Do you think that Duke Nukem could be made and survive today?
You know, it's definitely a difficult thing to say for certain because on one side, we obviously have the society has moved past the majority of people being so openly misogynistic and all of that, but at the same time, you think of characters like Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin who are still these hugely popular cartoons, and a lot of the things that they're saying in these cartoons are no better. So it really just depends on the crowd. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, my thought is whether or not, with how offended people seem to get nowadays, if there'd be a place for this without, if there would even be a market for this. But I guess for everyone who gets offended by stuff like this, there's other people who just don't give a shit, like to play games. I guess here, no one would, if it's a good game, it has to be a good game, good content, feel good, play good. I think if that's the case, everyone would accept the rest of it. But if it ends up being a game that's just hinged on what Duke Nukem is, which is very much what happened with Duke Nukem Forever. Duke Nukem Forever was not a good game. It was a Duke Nukem game. Don't get me wrong. It the voice, the characters, the topic, all of that, all of Duke Nukem was there. It just was not a good game. And I think if they flip flopped, you might have better success bringing him back. But I don't know. Cancel culture is a real thing nowadays.
That it is.
I don't know. I don't know if there'd be a place for the red light district in a game anymore. But maybe they can take similar concepts and yeah. I mean, you could do a concept of aliens coming to Earth to take over Earth without bringing the rest of that in it and probably be okay.
That's very possible. Yeah, I mean, look at things like Mass Effect and Halo.
We're getting a new Mass Effect, huh?
That we are.
Hopefully it's not like Andromeda.
I can only hope. Maybe that would actually get me interested in the series. I never played the old ones, but Andromeda being my first look into the series didn't really leave me with a good taste in my mouth. No offense to those who enjoyed it, but just
You
wasn't my cup of tea.
started with Andromeda?
I sure did.
Oh, I am so sorry. No wonder you don't want to play the rest. The other three are. I couldn't get into the first one very much. It took me a while, but two and three were they're phenomenal games. They're honest to God phenomenal games. So, all right, well, Duke Nukem. We learned a little bit of history, learned a bit of pedigree, learned about vaporware, talked a little bit about it, whether or not it has a place in today's day and age. I don't know if there's anything else I want to cover. How about you?
I had a lot less knowledge about this than yourself, so I pretty much gave what I had.
Awesome.
I will say that,
Well,
give it a try if you've never played it. It's fun for one of those mindless run and shooters, but I will say that at times it can get very frustrating trying to understand where in the hell to go next.
are you getting a kick out of playing all these games you didn't have a chance to play?
It is fun, yes. It's some of them definitely frustrate me, but obviously that's no different than yourself being a young child growing up playing these for the first time.
Can you imagine that though? That like you have the benefit of all these years of gaming experience and the complexity of modern games, and we had shit back then. We didn't have the internet or anything even. We
Hey, even the shit back then still confuses me, so it did something right.
we had fucking trash, absolute trash. Oh, All right, well, let's move on to the gaming question of the week. You ready for it?
Hit me with it.
I was thinking, if you had to live in the world of the last game you played, what would it be?
Well, see, that one's kind of a difficult one. Is it the game I'm currently playing? No. So if I was in the world of the last game I played, I would be pretty screwed because I would be living a real life Escape from Tarkov, and as much better as people are than me, I would probably not survive.
So what's the deal with Tarkov? Like it's what, a war zone? Is that the concept behind it?
Not really. So it's not like a there's no winner in Tarkov. It's you either live or you don't. So there are multiple maps that you go through, and there's a story behind it, although it's still early development, so the storyline isn't really prevalent.
Well, that's
But
that's what I was wondering, like why the world is the way it is.
well, it's a apocalyptic Russia, so you're in the middle of the
Of course,
apocalypse happen. It's an abandoned area, and your private military contractors trying to escape from this province of Russia.
of course, it's Russia.
Oh, of course it is. It's
And
developed by a Russian company.
you don't think that you have the survival skills to survive very long whatsoever.
I think that there are many who are more so skilled than myself, and with the number of firefights that happen in the game, I guess it's a game compared to how I would actually shoot, and my shooting is rusty because I haven't gone in a few years. But yeah, I would probably have to learn to shoot really well because otherwise, someone gets eyes on you first, it's over.
Mm.
But that's war for you,
Mhm.
and people are living that kind of stuff every day. So
Very true.
props to them. Prayers for all of them because you do great work.
Mhm.
What about yourself, Dave? Where would you be living?
I'd be living on a tropical island.
Much much more pleasant than I.
No, literally, there's no conflict whatsoever. So the last game I played was Animal Crossing.
Ah, so you just have to worry about getting stung by a bee.
That's literally it. Or chased by a spider and bonked on the head.
Scorpion?
Scorp is that no? Isn't it the spider at night, the tarantula that chases you down?
Oh, I was thinking during the daytime, the scorpion,
Oh yeah, scorpions do too.
but knock you
Yeah,
out.
yeah. But I mean, aside from our bunch of bees that sting you, like you said, there's really not much for me to be afraid of. I would be enslaved to Tom Nook for debt for my entire life, which is basically my real life anyways. Except I would be doing it on a tropical island and not in the middle of suburbia.
I'm sure we'd all enjoy that a lot more.
Hey, I'm not complaining. The timing of that question worked out really well because, you know, I uh, I usually play a little bit with my Switch before I go to bed while I'm laying in bed winding down, and I finished Mario Odyssey a few days ago. Finally, I've had the Switch for what 3 years? It's been out. Had the Switch for like 3 years. I bought Mario Odyssey with it, and I finally beat it like 2 days ago. And so last night I sat down and I was like, I'm gonna play some Animal Crossing tonight. I haven't played it in a while. So there you go.
What'd you think of Odyssey?
Odyssey was a lot of fun, honestly. I don't know why. I'm a glutton for punishment. I still think out of the 3D Marios, Super Mario Sunshine is my favorite. I don't know why. I know so many people shit on that game and they don't like it, but I really like Super Mario Sunshine. With that being said, the Galaxies were phenomenal games too, and Odyssey was good. I enjoy playing Odyssey. I played straight through it. I didn't really try to collect every Power Moon, but I do have the desire to go back and collect more because I think there's what you could get straight up 999, can't you?
I do not. Hold on a sec. I gotta look that up.
Because to beat the game straight through, you only need like 160,
Yeah,
I
there are
think.
999.
Yes, so I to beat the game normally you only need like 160. So there are a lot more power moons for me to find. Now a bunch of those can be bought, I think is what the deal is, but still there's a lot of power moons to be had while playing the game straight up and it would be fun trying to hunt some of those down. So I'll probably pick it back up again, but I beat it and I needed to go to a different game. Animal Crossing is digital and really easy to just relax to, so I played Animal Crossing last night. And so I'm trapped in a very good place, unlike you.
You know, We all have our vices. I just happen to be trying to survive in a desolate place with
I'm
people
trying to
shooting
sur
everywhere.
I'm trying to survive in a desolate place too. Have you ever seen some of the residents on my island? They are straight cray cray. Jeez.
You know, I don't know how you deal with it, Dave. Must be a lot of stress just sitting on that tropical beach.
I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. Well, that's the gaming question of the week. That'll about do it. Guys, I could use more input for gaming questions of the week. If you have some questions that you would like us to answer for you, we would like you to submit them. You can do that in a number of ways. We have an email address. It's memories@memorycardlane.com. You can go to our website at www.memorycardlane.com, and at the bottom of the webpage, there's an option to share, both a form and a little button you can click on. You can join our Discord. You can come to our Patreon. You know, you can make comments on things at Patreon. So you could definitely come to our Patreon and make comments if you have some input. But the thing of it is there's only so many questions that my little tiny peanut brain can come up with, and I would love to answer questions that you guys have for us. So, you know, come check it out. Easiest way is through our website, www.memorycardlane.com. On our website, you can also get show notes for all of our episodes. You can check a biography to learn more about me and not Rob. And if you're curious why I say that, come check it out. You can find a link to our Discord, and you can find a link to our Patreon, where for only $2 a month, you can support us gabbing week in, week out, and showering each other with brotherly love. Rob, what else is going on the website? Anything? Oh, the calendar, right?
There is a calendar now, yes, where you can see upcoming topics that we will be discussing so that you might be able to give your stories, memories, reviews, even.
Ooh. Also on our website, you could find links to our social media. I'm on Twitter as David_is_wrong, where I mostly post about Rocket League. Rob, what are you doing on social media these days?
I can be found on twitch.tv/FATBOIRIPZ, streaming, just about any game I feel like playing. Most of the time it's first person shooters or Rocket League, but sometimes we get a little crazy in there. Maybe we'll start streaming a little Diablo with Dave.
Yeah, we definitely would love to. I would love to play back through the Diablo series. That's something interesting that came out news-wise this week. So what leaked is that Blizzard is working on a modern remake of Diablo 2, which is really fascinating. If they would redo Diablo 2 and the Diablo 3 engine, I think that would be phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal, to be honest with you. I would not complain in any way, shape, or form.
Doesn't sound like it, Dave.
So, yeah. Well, Rob, before we take it out of here, what else do you have for our listeners today?
Just want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone listening. We love doing what we do, but it makes it a lot more enjoyable knowing that we are giving you some enjoyment too. Definitely want to hear from you, get to know you, join our community. It's a lot more fun when we know you're there. But, no shame to those who listen and in the shadows. I'm right there with you. But just have to say thank you so much. It means the world to us, even if we don't hear from you. We just love to know you're there.
Right on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, that'll do it for episode 22 of our Video Game Nostalgia podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. That was Duke Nukem 3D, Rob. It's time to move on. Are you sad about that?
I think I'll live.
Yeah. Well, next week we're doing one of your favorite games, are we not?
What are we doing next week?
Sims.
Playing one of my more played series.
It's kind of your guilty pleasure, isn't it?
Man, I tell you, every time I start playing this game, I get hooked so hard. It's so hard to get out.
Yeah, it's really something. So next week we're going to be heading back to 2000. 2000 was a really weird year with that Y2K bullshit, but one good thing that came out of 2000 was The Sims. And I mean, I don't know what else to say about Sims. It's the ultimate life simulator. It's a series that we're what 21 years later and it's still going strong, like incredibly strong. played by millions of people, and yeah, so we're gonna take a look back at the beginning and talk about where it started, how we got there, and what came of it. So yeah, join us again next week for Simlish. Oh, that's the other thing, Rob. You know Simlish?
No, I've tried learning, but that language is something else to me.
Yeah, we're gonna do some Simlish too. So
Oh joy.
I know. Join us again next week for a Simlish filled trip down memory card lane.
Ba da 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 ba ba wa.